3 billion gallons pressing against a century-old dam, inches from catastrophe. Not a crack, not a leak. A full breach aimed straight at thousands of homes. Dole knew about this spillway since 1978. 48 years of warnings, 4 deficiency notices, a $20,000 fine, and in that same stretch, $92.4 million paid out to shareholders, while the company said the system was operating as designed. Did a billion-dollar corporation gamble 5,500 lives against a $20,000 fine and win? If this makes you angry, drop a comment right now. Just write, "I care." I want to see how many of you think that is not enough. Let us keep going. Because how Hawaii came within feet of its worst dam disaster traces back to a blueprint drawn for sugar, not safety. In 1906, the Waialua Sugar Company finished piling up earth and stone where 2 forks of the Kaukonawa stream meet, carving out a new reservoir in the heart of Oahu. This was not a public work. It was a tool, an irrigation engine for the booming sugar empire that turned water into profit, field after field, season after season. The design was simple. Hold back millions of gallons, channel them through ditches, and drive the cane harvest. No one asked what would happen to the families living downstream if the rains ever broke the banks. No one imagined a century of storms growing stranger and stronger. 15 years after the first gates closed, the dam failed. In 1921, floodwaters toppled the original structure, forcing a hasty rebuild. New walls went up, but the blueprint stayed the same. Built fast, built cheap, built for a crop that would one day vanish. Wahiawa Dam became just one link in a chain, 132 dams across Hawaii, most raised by plantation companies in the rush to control water and land. Today, nearly 2/3 of those dams are rated poor or fair. The legacy of sugar is not just in the fields, it is in the bones of the island, in every aging wall holding back disaster. And it gets worse, because the cracks in this system are not just physical, they are political, they are financial, and they are decades deep. Rains started as a whisper, then hammered down with a fury that stunned even veteran forecasters. The first Kona low drifted in from the southwest, dragging bands of tropical moisture over Oahu for days. Gauges ticked higher hour by hour, 10 inches, 20 inches. By the time the second system formed, the ground could absorb no more. Every hillside, every gulch, every abandoned cane field was already soaked to the core. Meteorologists tracked the pressure drop and watched the radar bloom with color. Rainfall totals blurred the line between anomaly and impossibility. Some stations recorded over 30 inches in a week, numbers that would drown entire towns on the mainland. But the next storm did not care. It parked itself over the island, unleashing another torrent. In just 24 hours, the Wahiawa Reservoir surged upward, 6 feet of water, 3 billion gallons, all pressing against a dam built for a vanished crop. Warning sirens blared. River gauges spiked. The word from the National Weather Service was blunt: do not let your guard down. The numbers kept rising. The reservoir's surface crept closer to the crest, the spillway already roaring white. And it gets worse. With every hour, the margin for error shrank. The question was no longer if the dam would overflow, but how soon. The clock was running out. Chaos swept through Wahiawa as the evacuation order hit. Phones buzzed, sirens screamed, and in minutes, 5,500 people were told to get out now. Families scrambled for higher ground, clutching pets, dragging bags, wading through water already lapping at doorsteps. The main shelter, meant to be the last safe place, was itself swamped. Emergency coordinators made a desperate call: move everyone again, shelter within a shelter, as floodwater chased them from one refuge to another. There was no time for questions, only movement. School gyms filled with soaked blankets and shivering children. The roar of the spillway was constant, a reminder that 3 billion gallons pressed against the dam. enough water to fill more than 4,500 Olympic pools, all rising toward the crest. County alerts tracked the numbers in real time. The reservoir climbed to within inches of overtopping, the margin for disaster razor thin. And it gets worse. No one could say if the next hour would bring collapse or if the wall would hold. The danger was immediate, the cause still unanswered. Who let it come to this? Who was responsible for a century-old dam nearly failing while thousands ran for their lives? The search for answers was just beginning. The Wahiawa Dam did not reach the brink by accident. The warning signs were clear, recorded, and repeated, then ignored. In 1978, state engineers flagged the spillway as dangerously undersized for a real flood. 4 more deficiency notices arrived between 2009 and the present, each one spelling out the same message, that the dam could not safely pass the kind of storm Hawaii now faces every few years. The state issued a $20,000 fine for management failures, a penalty smaller than the cost of a single new pickup truck. Dole, the corporate heir to the sugar empire, responded not with repairs, but with a plan to transfer the entire dam to the state free of charge, but with every risk attached. Meanwhile, over $92 million flowed out to shareholders since 2023, enough to fix the spillway 4 times over. The deadline for mandated upgrades came and went. Instead of new concrete or steel, a temporary inflatable barrier was installed, promising a few extra feet of protection if the water rose. At every turn, paperwork and profit won out over permanent safety. The question hangs in the air: was it worth the gamble? On Kauai in 2006, the Kaloko Dam collapsed after years of ignored warnings and owner defiance. 7 people died. The owner went to prison. In Wahiawa, thousands ran for their lives, but the dam still stands, its flaws unresolved. And it gets worse. Raquel Achiu stood in knee-deep water, clutching her phone, her voice shaking as she filmed the chaos around her. She said her dogs almost drowned, eyes darting to the muddy current swirling past her fence. She added that either way, we were screwed. Down the street, Kathleen Pahinui pressed her palms together and spoke to the darkness outside. Just pray for us. The power was out. Sirens echoed. No one knew how high the water would get. At 1:30 in the morning, Carly Myers dragged her children from their playroom as water burst through the back door. Their shoes were floating. The school gym where they took shelter filled with the cries of toddlers and the silence of neighbors who had lost everything. That night, 236 people were pulled from flooded homes and rooftops by emergency crews. 72 of them were children, lifted into Black Hawk helicopters as the river swallowed the roads. 400 houses were gone or unlivable, each one a family with nowhere left to go. Tina Stahl, a National Weather Service forecaster, watched the radar in disbelief and warned, "Do not let your guard down." But the rain kept falling. The tally of rescues grew by the hour. The numbers sound abstract until you remember that everyone is a mother, a grandfather, a child clutching a soaked backpack. This was not just a flood. It was a test of what Hawaii's aging infrastructure and its people could survive. And it gets worse. Lahaina's hills, once covered in green, now bleed runoff every time the sky opens. The wildfire that tore through in 2023 left nothing but scorched earth and a town on edge. When the rains came, water rushed over the burn scar, turning streets into rivers and homes into islands. Retention basins filled in hours. Emergency crews braced for the worst, knowing that the charred ground could no longer soak up the deluge. Scientists warned that runoff from fire-blackened slopes can triple in a single season, a fact that played out in real time as neighborhoods scrambled to escape the rising tide. Across the islands, the numbers told their own story. Damage estimates soared past $1 billion, a sum bigger than the state's entire emergency fund, enough to rebuild 1,000 homes or repair every school on Oahu twice over. Insurance claims stacked up, But for many, the paperwork was just another wave to survive. Roads buckled, crops drowned, livelihoods vanished overnight, and the weather maps offered no comfort. Meteorologists tracked the next Kona low forming over warm Pacific waters, its path uncertain, but its power undeniable. Each year these storms grow stronger, fueled by oceans that hold more heat and more moisture than ever before. The old calculations no longer hold. The next flood is not a question of if, but when. Yet the Wahiawa Dam still stands, its spillway unchanged, its warnings unheeded. The same risk hangs over thousands of families. One storm, one broken wall, one night when the margin for survival disappears. The danger is not just in the past or the present, it is waiting in the clouds, gathering strength, looking for the next weak link. The search for answers is not over. The threat is still out there, and the clock is still ticking. The dam stands, 120 feet of earth, 3 billion gallons still pressing close. Dole calls it operating as designed. Residents like Raquel Ashew and Carly Myers call it terror. The question echoes: what price for warnings ignored? For families left behind? For danger measured in heartbeats instead of dollars? Your thoughts belong below.